by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlines. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious. Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
Thank you, John Larson. I receive your kind words on behalf of all of our courageous members of the House of Representatives who want the best for the American people. And what we can do that is best for them in the next 24 hours is to pass affordable, accessible health care for all Americans. The best for all Americans is to have 32 million more people to have health insurance in our country. The best for...
Piece of stinking filth.
Shh, say it again, Shali. This is AJ of the InfoWars. Listen to the Shaliak. This is Alex Jones of InfoWars. Listen to Shaliak on the Cold Reality News and Report.
This is the coolest thing I have ever seen.
Well, hello there.
Chances are it's gonna be the same or worse. I hope it isn't. I hope it's better than 2017. 2018, gonna make you happy, gonna bring you down. 2018, yeah, 2018 might just bring you down. 2018 gonna bring you down. Bring it down, down to the ground. 2018 gonna make you frown. 2018 gonna make you frown. Gonna make you frown on the ground. 2018 gonna make you frown. a fucking crazy place. Since the U.S. went in and crushed it, they crushed Iraq and Libya. And ISIL is making sex slaves out of children. Yes, they are. They're making sex slaves out of children. They are a creation of the IMF. They are making sex slaves out of children in the Middle East. Middle East. Oh yeah, they're making people's lives a mess. They are not spreading democracy. Along with NATO and the Zionists, they're gonna destroy the desert, destroy down to Syria. Donald Trump taking credit for ridding Syria of ISIL when it was actually Russia and Putin and the good guys. Or is Russia actually the good guys? I think they're the good guys. They might be the good guys. But you won't hear that on the news in America, even though the U.S. has interfered in 70 plus elections around the world. 70 plus elections around the world. America is so full of shit. And unfortunately, most of the people in it, they are so fucking full of shit. They've got no clue what's going on in the world, what's going on with it. New Year. Have a happy one. Make it a good one. Have a good one. You know what they say. Make it a good one. Make it a good year. Have a good one. Oh yeah, what? You have a good one. How about we all have a good one? Happy New Year. Holiday season 2017. Last day of the year here on UCY. UCY.TV, the home of cold reality and other fine programs. Tune in every day. Learn something, get out of your own way. You see why. Holiday, Happy New Year. 2018, 2017, 2016. Da, 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 da. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Have a happy new year. Fight the corruption. Fight the corruption. Code reality on UCY. Shali Lama is gonna tell you why. UCY. UCY.TV on this cold Sunday. It's a frigid Sunday on the east coast of North America. North America. Oh yeah. It's a frigid one. Gotta make sure the pipes don't freeze. Here on the east coast of North America. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The world is on fire, but it's cold in the northeast. It's cold in the northeast. I'm coughing because it's so cold outside. You see why, not America. You see why. You see why. .TV. For reality radio. Last day of the year. Last day of the year. Last day of the year. Last day of the year 2017. Donald Trump is a crazy son of a bee. Donald Trump gonna burn the world down. Gonna burn it down. He's gonna burn it down. New Year. New Year. Let's make it a better one. New Year. Oh, New Year. Let's try to make it a better one. Family, holidays, jingle bells, the jingle bells. Holiday, New Year's Eve, mistletoe, jingle bells, jingle bells, snowstorms, frozen roads, New Year. Yeah, let's make it a better one. Let's make 2018 a better one. Let's make it a better one. 2018, let's make it a better one. Jingle bells, cheap Chinese goods, the Pope on Christmas Eve, saying peace to the world while actually being the face of the devil. Holidays and your families and your health. If you got that, you're okay. You're doing good. New Year's on New Year's Eve. Don't drink and drive. Don't drink and drive. Don't text behind the wheel. Don't drink and text and drive. Because 2018 will be garbage. Jingle bells, sleigh ride, cold frigid temperatures. Sleigh rides, frigid temperatures, big old energy bills for the fat cats. make you scream, maybe make you smile. Let's end the evil in the world in 2018. Let's end the evil together. Oh, together, yeah. You see why the TV gonna do this in 2018. You see why you're gonna end the evil, end the evil in 2018. 2018 gonna end the evil, gonna make the people, gonna make them smile, gonna make them smile, gonna make them smile. You see why? You see why the TV? You wanna see why the TV, the TV. Bless your family in 2018. 2018, Charlie Sheen, 2018, I'm gonna put in some Afro sheen, even though I don't have an afro. I don't have an afro, but I'm gonna put in some Afro sheen. I'm gonna pray to Charlie Sheen. 2018, 2018. I'm not gonna be so mean. I'm gonna watch James Dean movies. I'm gonna give up coffee beans and maybe even black beans and pinto beans. Yeah, pinto beans. Pinto beans, black beans, Charlie Sheen, 2018. I'm not gonna be so mean. Join me in not being so mean in 2018. pedophile. But for some reason you are on the mind of every child. That's because we lie to you and we tell you lies about Santa Claus, that big fat vampire. One day we'll just tell the kids it's mom and dad bringing all the presents to the tree, not a big fat pedophile. Oh, Santa, you are such bullshit. It is ridiculous that we tell children lies about your big fat ass. Santa, Santa Claus, is that you coming down the chimney? I don't think so, 'cause you don't exist. Santa, Santa, you are BS, and so are your filthy reindeer, your filthy frickin' reindeers. Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you fly the sleigh tonight on Christmas Eve? Oh yeah, Christmas Eve. Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you fly the sleigh tonight for that fat pedophile named Santa Claus? Donner and Blitzen, Rudolph and another silly reindeer gonna pull the sleigh of that big fatso. Oh, Santa, you are a big fat, non-existent thing that the American people love to lie about. Oh, if you don't behave, Santa, he ain't coming down your chimney, you dirty rotten kid, you dirty rotten kid. Well, he sees you when you're sleeping, and he knows when you're awake. He knows when you're awake. That's pretty freaky. Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus, and all those freaky elves making the toys with their contract from China. Santa Claus and your filthy elves and Rudolph flying through the sky on New Year's Eve. Yeah. I hope your sleigh don't crash and smissy smash into Washington, D.C. Santa Claus, you don't exist. That's why I can't quite figure out why the parents do this. Why do they lie about Santa Claus? Why do they lie? Because they're cowards and they don't think they're good parents. You know what I'm saying? Santa Claus, Santa Claus, you don't exist. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you don't exist. You don't exist. You don't exist either. I'm so sick of hearing about Santa Claus. I'm so sick about Santa. I could spend Santa Claus syndrome. Santa Claus syndrome. It's about collective deception. Oh, Santa Claus deception, Santa Claus syndrome. It's about collectively lying, and it makes it okay. Oh, it makes it okay to lie, because everybody does it. Oh, Santa Claus syndrome. Santa Claus syndrome. I lie to my kids. I just tell them I was Santa Claus. You know, they thought that I was buying the gifts. I didn't know what would they think? They'd be like, "Oh, you got all kinds of money. You buy me Christmas every day." But it's okay, collectively lie, because everybody does it, right? Everybody lies to their kids about Santa Claus, so it's okay, right? This non-existent fat pedophile type creature. Just lie to your kids about Santa. It's cool, man. It's okay, bro. Just tell them it's Santa Claus. That way they'll, believe fantastical bullshit like religion and all these other fantastical deceptions throughout history. Oh, Santa, is that you? Is that you, Santa, coming down my chimney top? The only reason that I ask is because I'm gonna set a fire and I'm gonna burn your ass when you reach bottom. You dirty, non-existent pedophile creature. Oh, Santa Claus, you are a non-existent creature. Let's talk about some non-existent creatures like the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy. Like the super friends of non-existent creatures. You'll tell your kids that the Easter Bunny is gonna come and bring you chocolate laced with melamine. Oh, chocolate candy laced with melamine makes me wanna frickin' scream on Krista. I tell you, the tooth fairy brought me $1. But thanks to inflation, it was only a quarter. Oh, the tooth fairy brought me $1. But it was just a quarter by daybreak. Just a quarter. I tell you, I'm so sick of this economy. Even the frickin' tooth fairy has got a social security ID. Oh, Halloween, satanic holiday, satanic Halloween. I tell ya, holla queen, holla queen. I tell you, Christmas, Halloween, that's what holla Eve. And I'm telling you, all these holidays are just a way to get your money. Your money, money, money. And all your savings for the holiday. Oh yeah, the holiday. Oh yeah, the holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy Festivus. Oh, have a Kwanzaa, Hanukkah. Happy New Year's, Halloween. Happy Festivus and a Halloween miracle. All you demons in the streets on Easter Eve, and all your fake deities and all your non-existent creatures. I tell you, I can't take it no more. All these non-existent creatures are for, I don't know. Non-existent creature. Claus. Need I say more about this non-existent creature known as Santa Claus? Or I like to say Pedo Claus, because Santa Claus coleslaws. I like coleslaw. I don't like Santa Claus. I like coleslaw more than Santa Claus. Santa Claus. Santa Claus. Oh, Rudolph, with your nose so bright. Rudolph, with your nose so bright. Won't you fry my sleigh tonight? I'll give you some gasoline to fry my sleigh tonight. I'll give you some matches to fry my sleigh tonight. Oh, let's fry my sleigh every night and every day. Oh yeah, you're gonna fry my sleigh. Fry my sleigh tonight. Past the moon so round and bright. Mr. Moon. Oh yeah, Mr. Moon. Oh yeah, Mr. Moon. I'm gonna get a spittoon. I'm gonna spit in it. That's what you do. Rudolph Blitzen, you are not a citizen. You are a non-existent creature. You non-existent creatures. You and Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and all those other non-existent creatures. I tell you, I can't take it anymore. All this bullshit every year. I can't take it no more. I can't take it. I can't take it. I can't take it no more. All this Santa Claus stuff. All this Santa stuff. And is Kwanzaa really a holiday? Maybe the Shali Lama will tell you today if Kwanzaa's a holiday or just a made-up holiday. It turns out that it's not really a holiday. It's just there to make people stay in their place when you give them a holiday to celebrate. Kwanzaa, Hanukkah. Kwanzaa festivals. Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Festa, Christmas. a new year. And new year. Bear and Christmas and honeycomb, oh Easter and Festivus and honeycombs. Honeycomb. I can't believe we're so deceived round this time of year. Round this time of year. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Kwanzaa Hanukkah. I know your Monica and girls named Monica and Santa Monica, and one day I might even play a harmonica. Oh yeah, harmonica. Oh yeah, I might play Hanukkah during harmonica. It's a new holiday where people play harmonica all day long, all day long. Harmonica rhymes with Hanukkah and Santa Monica. Hanukkah, Hanukkah, Hanukkah. I got a poor connection on my Skype. I don't know what that means, but I hope my song is coming through to you. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, Kwanzaa Hanukkah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about Santa Claus, about the television show Maud. I think my baud rate is low. My baud rate, I think I'm running at 2400 kbps. But the message on my screen has gone away. My poor connection wasn't here to stay. My blue song for the holidays. Oh, the holidays. Shalidays. The message is back. The message is back. Happy Shalidays. Happy Shalidays. To you. Oh, to you. If I got one message for you, never say Santa Claus again. Never say Santa Claus to your children, because he do not exist. He is a non-existent creature. That's Santa Claus and a Rudolph and Mrs. Claus and all the elves, all those elves don't exist. They ain't making toys endlessly for your children and your babies. We should get rid of Christmas and make December 25th UCY Day, because it sounds like holiday. UCY Day. You see? I'm depressed on Christmas. All right, folks. I don't know what this poor network connection is. I want to eat some cheese. Christmas Day. I want to smoke a chain. When the friends come around, when it's Christmas Day, we're gonna party on Red Town. 2017 year like a wet towel. We're going to talk about all kinds of things like the memory hole, stories, things that pretty much epitomize how completely ignorant the American people are when it comes to the military, our troops, things like that. You know what I'm saying? We're going to talk about Donald Trump's first year in the White House. It's racist, right? The White House. Why can't it be like off-white or gray? The Gray House. They're going to make it the Gray House soon. Last show of the 2017 year here on UCY.tv. Hope you enjoyed the music, the Christmas and holiday. In the first hour, we're going to break down some things. We're going to get silly. We're going to get silly, the sillification here on UCY.tv. Going to celebrate another successful year here on the air. For everybody, all the shows involved, everybody that's involved, Jules and her incredible work that she does every day for the last, what's it been? It's got to be somewhere like 5, 6, 7 years, I would imagine. So we are going to talk about many different things, going to play some clips. We're going to talk about the top headlines and show where things are moving, what in general direction they're going in, the deception. Things could be so much better, but we do unfortunately live in a someone else's creation. The people's creation. You know, Obama's family, Trump and his family, all the people, like Steve Scalise said when he got back to out of the hospital after being shot at that what is it, the baseball game, the softball game. He said, "I'm just so glad to be back in the people's house." That's not you. And I think that's the thing that the biggest deception that you can, or hopefully will try to understand, that it is not, we are not the people. That is one of the main deceptions. We are not the people. The people are Obama and Clinton and all those other ones of the posterity of the founders. Okay, this has nothing to do with us. We spoke about that before. Clinton has spoken about that in detail many, many times, that we have, that we are part of this creation. We are duped. Our parents were duped into delivering us to the state, delivering us as a livestock. We are living stock, as per the birth certificate. It is a banknote. You are a livestock, and that is how they see you. That is how. I mean, this is slavery at its grandiose level, but they have us fighting with each other. They have the commoners fighting with each other, and they have, of course, over the last year, as with other years, prior years, more the police, the police violence that the one side points out that the other side doesn't. But at the same time, we know that it is the police and the authorities are here to protect their property, their land that they don't pay taxes on, to protect that from us. We're allowed to move into their property. That's where the taxes and all these other things go to. All right, we're allowed to move in, but when we do that, we have to abide by the rules, like Clint had pointed out any number of times. Being a United States citizen is much like, a car. When you rent a car, you have to abide by all of these rules, these strict rules. And it is a contract. So we see, and it's only a matter of time until we have the next VA scandal, because nothing's really truly being done. And if anything, they're probably doing more to suppress. They're doing more to suppress the things that are not being done for the troops and military, especially with the burn pits and, with the example, Gulf War syndrome, things like that. But there are different things going on, and we know that they don't care about the troops. It's just window dressing. It's just window dressing. Okay. So let me see if I can find this clip. And I think that this young woman really kind of pulls it all together. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh, no, it's right there. See if I can find it. We've got... And of course, now they're saying that Jill Stein, because she ran, she's a Russian, tool. What is that? Okay, let's see here. Let's listen to this here.
The battle for decent health care for all in this country is exhausting. These days, my health insurance card is just a punch card from Chopped Creative Salad. The upside is I'm eating more kale. The downside is I'm still 2 punches away from getting a free CAT scan. But if there's any group of people that shouldn't be battling for better health care, it's our troops. Specifically care that isn't from doctors whose injury rates rival an armed Dick Cheney hiding behind a duck blind. Unfortunately, that's not the case. According to a USA Today investigation, the VA knowingly hires doctors with past malpractice claims and discipline for poor care. One of those doctors, a neurosurgeon named John Henry Schneider, has 12 malpractice claims filed against him in 15 years, including getting his license to practice in Wyoming yanked after a patient died. But even though Schneider was upfront with the VA about all of his shortcomings in his application, the VA still hired him after a group of his medical peers thoroughly reviewed his file and approved his competency. His hiring isn't a huge surprise considering his group of medical peers consisted of Dr. Nick Riviera, Dr. Bunsen Honeydew, and Beaker. I don't even think Beaker has the credentials to take someone's blood pressure. My systolic and diastolic blood pressure can't both be meat. The hiring also isn't a huge surprise considering we know veteran health care ranks pretty low on the priorities of our military, clocking in just below plane flyovers at NFL games. This falls in line with a pattern of misconduct that has continued under multiple administrations, such as dozens of veterans who died waiting for care at a Phoenix VA facility that lied about the wait times for patients. Or when in 2014 and 2015, the VA spent nearly $6.7 million to secretly settle cases with problem employees, including medical professionals who committed negligence and misconduct, and were allowed to resign with clean references. But what makes the VA attractive to medical professionals with background histories shadier than the stare Maxine Waters gives you when you won't let her reclaim her time is that at the VA, you don't need to have malpractice insurance. Your taxpayer dollars are paying for claims filed against doctors that never should have been hired in the first place.
Oh, my.
Like David Houlihan, a psychiatrist flagged by the Iowa Board of Medicine who doled out so many narcotic drugs at a Wisconsin VA hospital that he went on to earn the nickname the Candy Man. Rumor has it, if you say his name 5 times while facing a mirror, he shows up to your house with a hook for his hand made entirely out of Xanax pills. If we're going to have an administration that can't stop singing the praises of our troops, then we should have some parity between the money we spend to send them places where they're physically and emotionally damaged and how much money we spend to repair that damage. Last week, President Fireball Whiskey signed a $700 billion military budget into law. Meanwhile, the proposed 2018 budget for the Department of Veterans Affairs is nearly $187 billion. Imagine if the billions we spent on new fighter jets were actually spent on reporting negligent providers, streamlining care, or dissolving medical student loan debt and raising salaries of healthcare professionals who work in the VA. Especially since in 2011, nearly 6,000 physicians, RNs, physician assistants, and more left the VA health system. By 2015, that number had grown to over 7,700. It's clearly a long way to go before wrongs are righted in the VA healthcare system. But the next time I see someone from our government yell, "Stop disrespecting our troops," at an NFL player kneeling during the national anthem, I'm yelling back, "You first!" Reporting from the VA, Natalie McGill, redacted tonight.
All right, so some of the things that they point out here, and obviously they don't go far enough, and obviously I will, is that the system doesn't give a shit about the troops. The contracts for the military, the plane, that's all okay. They'll find more people. They'll find more people, okay, to fight wars. You destroy the economy. You put people into desperate areas of their life, and then they will join the military, especially when they're offered an education. Okay, that's one of our key words here in America. Why is this failing? Why? Well, it's education is what it is. It's the we need to educate better is what we need to do, we need to educate, right? Which is bullshit, because educating people and really, really creating unique people that understand when they're being fucked and screwed over by this system that is a complete and total lie are two different things. You can't have people understanding the nature of what they're involved in, what they've signed on to. You can't have people truly understanding and truly being taught. That's why the education system is crap. And it creates just a bunch of parroting millennial fools that swear they understand what's going on in the world and are very disrespectful to those who have done the research, who understand, who have lived longer and understand that the system is murdering you. That's what it is. It's wringing you out like a wet towel And when it's done, they just wipe their ass with the wet towel-y, and then you're done. I heard a story the other day about these medical devices that are put in the arteries to block clots, people that have a tendency to get clots. But let's not look at why they're getting these clots, okay? The drugs that they're taking, probably the pharmaceutical drugs that they're taking. But these devices, they break off. They actually create clots, and then when they break down, eventually you will get a pulmonary embolism or a stroke or something like that. Sometimes it takes 5 years for these devices to completely break down, and if they move throughout the body, there's legs on them that break off, and then from there they travel, and they're basically worse than a clot. Because they have sharp edges, things like that. They'll get into very, very bad areas of the human body. But they knew this. The FDA knew this, and you can hear that on America's Lawyer. And if you go to YouTube, type in America's Lawyer, and you'll get Mike Papantonio, a lawyer that's actually trying to bring out all of this information that's out there. I mean, it's already out there, but the bottom line is that you're not going to hear it on the news because America is a corporation. The corporations around it do not control it. America is the main corporation. The other corporations cannot exist without the United States corporation. Okay. That a lot of these leftists and these liberals, think that they know what's going on. They look at the brothers, the Koch brothers, and that's one of their talking points. So the people that lead them are they're not even over the target. So the people that follow these morons are even less likely to figure out exactly how the system works. But isn't that always the case? So I think she said it right. She said next time they say, support or respect the troops, you say, maybe you should do that. You know what I mean? Maybe you should do that. Let's see what else we got here. Let me turn this down here. But you will hear, that's the thing, you will hear so many things on, here's one. Hold on a second. Suppression celebration.
The congressional witch hunt has turned its laser-like glare to Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein. They say she colluded with Russia by running for office. And not just running, but running as a third-party candidate. Dun, dun, dun! In fact, when she ran in 2012, this is true, she was chained to a chair by police during the entire presidential debates. But then, when she ran in 2016, she was not chained to any chairs. So how did Jill Stein avoid the constitutionally mandated chaining up of third-party candidates, huh? Seems highly likely Russia did it. This story is developing. We will bring you any updates as the mainstream media makes them up in the coming weeks. And...
all right, that's another one. Just more of this. Some more of this bullshiz. What else we got here? Trump is much like Obama being the black mascot for Wall Street. Now you got Trump basically doing everything for them
all of these regulations and things like that. Not that the EPA really gives a shit about. So that's the thing. You'll hear them talk about, oh, they got all of these issues with.
Apparently, Secretary of State ExxonMobil ruffled some feathers when he basically said the U.S. should be careful not to let values like human rights create obstacles to the pursuit of its interests. Yeah, Rex,
asshole.
That's been a real problem for us.
He is a piece of shit.
We've really let human rights
Where did this
slow
guy
us
come
down.
from?
That's like saying a boulder rolling down a hill should stop worrying so much about the squirrels it's smushing. But just in case he didn't get it, this is true. A leaked memo has now come out from a top Tillerson advisor who was trying to educate him on how exactly our government weaponizes human rights. It said that the U.S. should use human rights as a club against its adversaries like Iran, China, and North Korea, while giving a pass to repressive allies like the Philippines, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. You do have to marvel at our ability to weaponize just about anything. We can. You could bring us a koosh ball covered in syrup, and we'd be like, yeah, we could kill a dude with that, yeah.
So this Tillerson, man, he's an absolute piece of garbage, and this is the swamp. I mean, I can't believe that people actually think that the swamp is being drained. It blows me away. Let's see. Check this one out.
Honduras versus Venezuela. Much like my mom's view of my younger brother Michael compared to me, the U.S. seems to have a more favorable take on one than the other. Last year for his birthday, she got him a new laptop. She got me a box of pencils. Fair enough, he helps out a lot around the house, and I may have puked on the Thanksgiving dinner table. But still, I think it's clear what I'm saying. Our U.S. foreign policy is arbitrary and capricious. The U.S. State Department has certified that the Honduran government has been fighting corruption and supporting human rights, clearing the way for Honduras to receive millions of dollars in U.S. aid.
So that's all it takes, right, is human rights. It's unbelievable. But
the only problem is the Honduran government is partaking in corruption with the attempted theft of the most recent presidential election on November 26th, which took place just 2 days before the latest U.S. aid package was signed off on. 2 days? Come on, Rex Tillerson. Couldn't you at least pretend Honduras is an inclined state? A little bit? Like, Mom, couldn't you at least pretend Michael isn't clearly your favorite son? That tattoo is bullshit! Also bullshit. The president of Honduras is deploying U.S.-trained forces against election protesters. Yeah. Cut to Venezuela. Back in August, the Trump administration issued a sanctions order prohibiting Americans from dealings in new debt and equity issued by the Venezuelan government and by its state oil company, PDVSA. And according to U.S. National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster,
as you've seen, the president signed a new executive order that strongly punishes the Venezuelan regime. This order demonstrates more clearly than ever that the United States will not allow an illegitimate dictatorship to take hold in the Western Hemisphere.
Nope, no illegitimate dictatorships taking hold, only legitimate dictatorships, like the ones we support in, say, Saudi Arabia or the Philippines. In all fairness, Venezuela was sanctioned because President Nicolas Maduro convened a special assembly to rewrite the Constitution. But the president of Honduras essentially did the same thing in 2015. The Honduran Supreme Court has struck down an article of the Constitution that prohibited a sitting or former president from seeking a second term. The move had vigorous backing from President Juan Orlando Hernandez, who will now be allowed to run for re-election. Yeah. President Juan Orlando Hernandez manipulated the court so he'd even be allowed to run again for president. Just like my brother manipulated our mom into thinking I sold all of her good candles to buy DMT. Oh, who cares if it's true? Hernandez's manipulation of the court is eerily similar to the scenario that led to the 2009 U.S.-backed coup in Honduras when then democratically elected President Manuel Zelaya just wanted to hold a referendum seeing if there was interest in him running for a second term. Hey, former President Zelaya, what do you think of the relationship between Honduras and the U.S.?
The Honduran institutions have been co-opted from the coup d'etat to date. There's no democracy here. There's no rule of law here. We are suffering repression here. People are being persecuted. There are human rights violations every day. There's no due process. There's nothing. Since the coup d'etat, the United States has done what it wants with this country. They changed all the laws. This is a military state.
Whoa, a military state. You'd think that would be something the U.S. would be all about sanctioning, except for the fact that we're propping it up. We're hypocrites, man. We've been doing this forever. Like back in 73, we created a coup to take out the democratically elected socialist president of Chile, Salvador Allende. And we've tried like 900 times to assassinate Fidel Castro. Yet we love President Duterte in the Philippines, even as he commits mass murder against his own people. We support Saudi Arabia, even as they've created a genocide in Yemen. But we destroyed Libya, even though Gaddafi gave every one of his people a free house and an education. Not a great guy for other reasons, but still you get my point. Look, is Venezuela a perfect society? Far from it. Inflation is out of control, there's been internal mismanagement, and far too much of a reliance on oil for their economy. But as a struggling country, do they deserve to be further squeezed by the most powerful nation on earth just because we want their oil on our terms? Of course not. Meanwhile, you have Honduras rigging elections and slipping closer and closer toward a dictatorship. And meanwhile, you have my brother angling to get the entire inheritance. I'll be goddamned if one of those porcelain baby seals doesn't go to me. Hey, Mom, remember that time I drove all the way to Chester, New Jersey just to get you that good ice cream? Yeah? Porcelain baby seal? Reporting from Washington, John F. O'Donnell.
All right, so, this has been going on for years. The Saudi Arabia, horrific human rights, horrific to women, and we've never sanctioned them. There's been no sanctions against them. Awful things going on over there in Israel towards people over there. There's never been any sanctions. You just keep giving more. Just keep giving more money. But you'll notice the people that they want to get in there into these other countries, the ones that they want a regime change. That's going to happen. South America, whatever. All these things are going to escalate. All these things are going to escalate, and they're the next Libya. Somewhere down in South America is the next Libya, where they have a slave trade now, and awful things going on. And of course, Macron wants to go down there and double down on he wants to add insult to the injury that France took part in when they went in and killed all the brown women and brown children, and created the jihadi wonderland, the jihadi Six Flags, if you will. So this is the kind of shit that goes on, and there is no truth about any of these things going on.
The CEO of Dollar General, for example, he accidentally revealed how fucked up our economy is this week. As you probably know, Dollar General, it specializes in very cheap stuff, and they do well when lots of Americans are barely making ends meet by eating off-brand foods like Crusted Flakes and Hot Fuckets. In my 20s, I lived off Hot Pockets. So Dollar General is doing quite well right now, and the CEO said the economy is continuing to create more of our core customer. Yay! I gotta tell you, when I roll out of my bed with its 9 billion thread count sheets made from the virginal nose hair of macaque monkeys bred inside a sterilized geodesic dome, and my eyes flutter open each morning after heaven-like sleep, I thank my lucky stars that our economy is still pumping out gut-wrenchingly poor people living in makeshift tents who will buy my contaminated, contagious products, which all smell like toxic hairspray for some unknown reason. Thank you so much, unfettered capitalism. It's a pleasure doing business with you.
Great economy when...
Accused pedophile Roy Moore lost his bid for the Senate in Alabama. That means other guy beat him, but just barely. Many are celebrating this as a huge win, but let me repeat. Other guy barely beats an accused pedophile who was on a watch list at a local mall for stalking young girls. Do you know how fucked up you have to be to get on a watch list at a mall? You gotta look at all the bizarre people hanging out at malls all day. This guy stood out, all right? You gotta look past the kleptomaniacs, past the pyromaniacs, past the straight-up maniacs, and be like, wait, what the fuck's the matter with that guy? He's got a lollipop on his string. What the fuck is... And yes, I agree. It is better to have not a pedophile in the Senate than a pedophile. But does anyone else think maybe our standards are a little low in this country? Let me show you a chart of what's happened to us. In the 1980s, for most big elections, you'd have not bright movie actor versus dope who wanted to help workers. Then that went downhill to corrupt businessman versus corrupt businessman who said yes to solar panels. Then that moved to corrupt idiot millionaire versus corrupt millionaire still with solar panels. Then we got to corrupt billionaire racist sexual predator versus corrupt millionaire racist but not a sexual predator. And now we're at corrupt racist anti-Semite pedophile versus anything else. And what the corporate media won't tell you is choosing between those two things is not freedom. That's not a democracy. We've replaced democracy with just trying to stop racist pedophiles. That's not an election. That's like a rent-a-cop's job at an arcade on a bad night. Well, one good thing you can say about racist pedophiles, at least the black kids are safe. The science of gene editing, cutting and pasting genes of our DNA is growing and has the potential to wipe out invasive plant species or diseases. We could eliminate malaria by just altering mosquito populations to only pass on genes that sterilize the females from laying eggs. But with great power comes great responsibility. Or in the case of John Conyers, with great power comes great opportunities for sexual harassment. For more on this, we go to our senior genetics expert, Natalie McGill. Natalie, this is already getting into ethical, murky...
Well, the thing that you have to understand about Redacted and Lee Camp is they point a lot of these things out. They believe in... that they believe that the global warming threat is real, so they really kind of push that for their audience, because if it's become so embedded, this religion of green anti-human, which really is what it is. It's the anti-human. People are eventually going to have to die to save the planet, but the elite will convince you that you have to die, and then you'll just walk off cliffs. But this gene editing, Patrick Jordan has spoken about it a number of times, and I think that he just said ethical. So we'll see what the concerns are. What Lee Camp thinks that the concerns are.
Already getting into murky ethical waters. So what reputable scientific body should we put in charge? Should we expect to wield this kind of gene control power?
The Department of Defense.
Said I said reputable scientific body, not the one agency that's an invasive species on the world. I'm not exactly comfortable with our military adding genetic warfare to their list of genres of warfare.
Okay. First of all, Lee, they are a reputable scientific body. These are government scientists working for the DoD's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, which after...
And I love how they do it. They always do it with Camp being very, very pessimistic about the story. And then, of course, Natalie McGill or Caravani being like, it's totally cool. I love it how they do it.
$100 million investment has become the world's largest funder of gene drive research. Today, we develop these technologies to stay one step ahead of our enemies. Then tomorrow, we can focus on the important science that affects all of us in our day-to-day lives, like replacing the genes that make people want to sit next to you on a bus that's completely empty. I can't stealth fart into the seat when our flesh is touching, you weirdo.
All right, so let's move past your own biowarfare. Let's focus on the U.S. military. They shouldn't be the only ones funding this, right? Doesn't that forever taint the direction of the research?
No, it doesn't taint it. It paints it with a different brush. For example, let's take this grad student's research paper topic, eradicating malaria in post-war Afghanistan. All right, on its face, that is a word soup sedative that will fuck that student out of any cash. But change the title to Operation Poppy Freedom, eradicating malaria to facilitate Afghanistan's opium production. You're almost guaranteed to get DARPA funding.
That's horrific.
No, don't freak out. The odds of you seeing that paper is slim anyways, especially since the UN Convention on Biological Diversity is debating whether to impose a moratorium on the gene research next year.
That's a good thing. If someone doesn't stop this, we'll be an imperialistic nation that can just do irreversible damage to another country's ecosystem by switching a couple of genes in their insects. Considering we don't care about another country's civilians, I can't imagine we care if we fuck up their biodiversity. Not to mention the fact our own military admitted to using biowarfare on our own citizens. Over 40 years ago, the Army admitted to Congress they conducted over 230 secret open-air germ warfare tests on Americans, such as spraying clouds of bacteria over San Francisco. I mean...
Yeah... And I suppose they also broke light bulbs full of bacteria on the subway tracks to see how they spread through New York City. But there's no way you can prove the bacteria wasn't already on the New York subway. All right. As a matter of fact, if I had kids, it would almost be irresponsible of me to not force them to lick the subway railings to build up their immunity.
So, yeah, this whole gene editing is bad. And the Department of Defense is going to be in control of it. Let's see what we got here.
We start in Libya, where reports have come out this week that things have gotten so bad that there are open-air slave auctions going on and people actually selling human beings in public. And while the mainstream media they have reported that story a little bit, they seem to have forgotten the bit of history where we, along with NATO, brought down Libya because Muammar Gaddafi got all uppity and, wanted to create his own currency and started dressing like Lady Gaga, and we couldn't have that. We couldn't. That was unacceptable. But that's how our corporate media works. They act like everything just came out of thin air. There's no context. They're like, oh my God, Americans are poor suddenly. What? How did that? What? The banks collapsed. Where did that come from? We don't understand. The country is really angry enough to elect a megalomaniacal orange supremacist. Where did the anger come from? They never give any fucking context. Net neutrality. Neutrality is back on the chopping block. The FCC are voting on December 14th to eliminate Title II net neutrality rules and deregulate the broadband industry. Listen, FCC, we've been through this before, all right? We, the people, demand a free and open internet.
You're not
Many
the people,
of us
Lee.
also demand free, bottomless buffalo wings, but that's a matter for another time, really. To explain how we can push back against this pillaging of the web, I'd like to bring in our senior internet user, John F. O'Donnell.
Hey, buddy.
It's great to have you back. Where you been for 3 months?
I've been researching this story in depth.
Okay, good. So what can the people do to keep net neutrality from being crushed?
Nothing. Thank you. Thank you very much. Nothing.
Come on, John. That's not true. There are a number of actions happening all over the country. There are things going
Oh, you're talking about things like the overnight vigil for net neutrality happening on December 13th right outside the FCC in Washington, D.C. Yeah, I'm not going to that. Yeah. Nobody's going to that.
I'm going to that.
Oh, of course you are, Lee. But it's just because you want to make me look bad. You know I have sleep apnea. I can't do an all-night vigil. My snoring will ruin the revolution. What do we want? Net neutrality. When do we want it?
Okay. Maybe the vigil's not for you, but there are other ways to push back here,
All right. On Thursday, December 7th, thousands of people are protesting at Verizon retail stores all across the country, which you can read more about at VerizonProtest.com. But I ain't doing it.
What's your excuse for that
It's
one?
not an excuse. A couple of years ago, when I still cared, I calmly walked into a Verizon store dressed up as a human internet service provider to protest the big telecom monopolies and their suppression of municipal broadband. Turns out I look like a bomb. And turns out now Verizon has a lifetime restraining order.
All right. So maybe that one's not for you. Can you at least sign online petitions about that one?
Carpal tunnel syndrome. I have carpal tunnel terribly.
Carpal
It's so bad.
What's going on here, John? Why do you want to fight for a free and open internet?
Because I already did it in 2015, man, all right? I did all the marches. I signed the petitions, the letters to the Congress people, the comments I wrote on that janky-ass FCC website. And we won, man. But for what? Just to have a former Verizon lawyer, Ajit Pai, throw it all away? I'm done.
You can't be done. That's exactly what they want. They want your frustration to turn into apathy.
Well, I'm sorry to say, it's working. I'll be back on board when we have a paradigm shift.
Which is...
Oh, I have to say what it is?
Yeah.
Oh. I thought I could just say paradigm shift and everyone would start cheering. Oh, come on, who wants a paradigm shift? Come on. Everybody wants a paradigm shift.
God, come on.
Paradigm shift.
You're not doing anything.
All right. Net neutrality can only really be protected by a revolution in who owns the infrastructure and networks. We have to end our dependence on big telecom monopolies and build decentralized, affordable, locally owned internet infrastructure. I'm talking about municipal broadband.
All right, good point.
Yeah, municipalities are the same ones that are dumping poison into your water to make your tea strong.
But sadly, the major ISPs are suppressing it. Two cities currently pushing for municipal broadband are Seattle and Fort Collins, Colorado, and they're dealing with all sorts of dirty tricks from companies like Comcast who want to maintain their monopoly over the whole...
Are you kidding me? I mean, that's crazy. I mean, we need a call to action. This is ridiculous. Fine. I'm coming to the vigil, baby. But I'm bringing a bucket of my Ambien vodka sleepy time juice and my special heroin grade valerian root pill straight from India.
He's back! Got him on
All right. So the net neutrality that it didn't go so well for, the so-called people. And so, look for the slow creep of internet apartheid. And It's inevitable. Let me see. Okay, here we go.
The Intercept revealed a new NSA document from the original Edward Snowden cache of leaks. The document explicitly reveals that an attack led by the Free Syrian Army was directed by a Saudi prince. The document proves, in essence, that the armed opposition in Syria from the earlier years of the conflict was under the direct command of foreign governments pushing for regime change. It also shows the U.S. had advance notice of the attack. But the biggest question of the whole thing, as Mint Press News pointed out, is why did The Intercept wait 3 years to publish it? 3 years ago, this document could have changed the course of the catastrophe in Syria and possibly saved thousands of lives. Did The Intercept have more important things to do? Don't strain yourselves, guys. Just take it easy. Take a couple of years off. Go find yourselves in the hills of Costa Rica. Report on the Saudi government funding and directing the Free Syrian Army when you get back.
Yeah. It's an inevitability that... Yeah, but see, most Americans don't even care. If we're over there and we're in bed with Saudi Arabia, Assad bad, Syria bad, let's kill everybody there. Let's kill everyone. Let's kill everyone there. We got here.
The Dow Jones passed 23,000 for the first time this week and has gained 25% since the Orange Man became president. Why? Because the big banks and corporate America have fully captured the government, all right? They did it before Trump. It was before Trump, but now it's more evident. They're like a cat that actually killed a mouse a long time ago, but only now showed up at your front door and just dropped the carcass on your feet, just like, eh? Like that. And regulators are looking the other way while we're getting fucked with like some sort of reverse pornography. But speaking of looking the other way, this week, new documents revealed just how much the U.S. knew about the 1965 genocide in Indonesia, and yet looked the other way. 39 U.S. Embassy in Jakarta documents show that U.S. diplomatic personnel were fully aware of the scale and savagery of the 1965 to 66 killings. Basically, anti-communist Indonesian paramilitary leaders and military units massacred 1 million of their fellow citizens for being alleged communists, and our government even helped fund the military that was doing the killing. Mother Jones Magazine called it the biggest U.S.-backed genocide you've never heard of. Because just calling it the biggest U.S.-backed genocide is not clear. You're like, which one? Which U.S.-backed genocide? This is a needle in a haystack scenario. I don't. Oh, I meant the one you've never heard of. Oh yes. Now I indeed recall the one I never heard of. Following the genocide, the U.S. supported the government of the guy who led the genocide, General Suharto. Apparently, they were fine with the part of his resume that said genocide. It's like, enjoys golfing? Genocide? He would rule Indonesia for the next 30 years. And considering how hard we are on corrupt, cruel regimes around the world, we will not stand for human rights abuses. You hear our politicians all the time. We will not stand for human rights abuses unless we're doing them ourselves. That is a difference there, all right?
Exactly.
Anytime you hear someone in government say they're upset about human rights abuses, just view it as like a hot dog vendor angry that another guy is selling hot dogs on that block. Like, we're doing the human rights abuses, all right? Get out of our racket. Go sell homemade jewelry or something. Anyway, since we are not okay with horrible dictators, and since we supported Suharto for 30 years, one must assume he changed his ways, right, since the 1965 genocide. Well, Transparency International called him the most corrupt leader in modern history. And that is a crowded field, all right? That's very impressive. That's like being the sleaziest dude at the Weinstein Company pool party. That's pretty incredible. Suharto stole up to $35 billion from his country. Of course, Jeff Bezos has stolen far more from our country, but he's a private citizen, so it's a different rating system. It's a different thing.
All right, so they do a good job of bringing out the stories of what we've been a part of, what we our taxpayers, our taxes are going towards, like McGill said on the VA doesn't have malpractice insurance. It comes from the U.S. tax dollar, taxpayer. So that's kind of cool, right? Right. And of course, they've been talking about getting rid of these private jails, private prisons, and that's not even the case because there's more of them. What else we got here? Let's see here. Let me see if I can bring up what they pretty much allow to happen. Let me see. To Puerto Rico. Let's see if we can find this clip. Is that? Yeah, that's way too long. Way too long, way too long. Yeah, they don't break the segments down. They basically the same thing that was done here in 2008 was done in a much larger scale in a much smaller place in Puerto Rico, and they pretty much bankrupted. And so now they're saying, "Oh, you can't pay your bills," when in fact they pretty much kind of destroyed. They destroyed the Santander Bank, which is no longer down there. It's in America now. It just continues. It just the absolute murder. Of people's lives, just destroying people. Just destroying people. Okay, there are smaller clips here. All right, here's a good one.
Over the summer, the Department of Justice announced that it would be phasing out the use of private prisons for federal inmates. According to August 18th memo that was generated by the Deputy Attorney General Shali Yates, she said this: when each private prison contract reaches the end of its terms, the Bureau should either decline to renew that contract or change or reduce its scope, with the goal of reducing and ultimately ending our use of privately operated prisons. But is that promise already being broken? Joining me now to talk about that is Executive Director of the Trial Lawyer Magazine, Farron Cousins. Farron, you can start by outlining how the DOJ is already backing out on their promise to phase out private prisons.
Well, it's really interesting because, they did what the Obama administration has done since day one. They come out and say, look, we know here there's a problem with something. We're going to fix it. Everybody just go ahead and move on from it. And then, of course, the DOJ has already been re-upping contracts with private prisons, especially this one at McRae in Georgia that is probably one of the worst privately owned prisons in the United States, has a horrible reputation for denying inmates medical care. They're denying them access to legal services. Instead, they're placing them in solitary confinement so that they can't continue working on their appeals. And the DOJ just renewed their contract after saying, we're not going to do this anymore. And it's the standard
what justification
of Obama.
Are we hearing for them telling us one story one day and then completely lying about it on day two? Surely there's some justification that we're hearing from the Department of Justice.
Well, what they always like to tell us is that, look, it's saving money. But in reality, all of the analyses that have looked into these private prisons say they save less than 1% of the money that these federally run prisons spend. You're saving less than 1%, and normally that money comes in the form of salary cuts to prison guards and things like that at these privately held prisons who make substantially less and are grossly underqualified for these positions. They pull people as young as 18 years old to be prison guards, no prior experience, no college education. They hire you, you're in there the next day as a prison guard.
So what we've done is we've made it profitable to put people in prison. And we're already seeing stories where we have judges, especially with young adults, throw them in prison for the darndest things when we know it wasn't a prison kind of offense. So we're seeing that more and more, aren't we?
Yeah.
We are, and we're starting to see Jeff Sessions is a great example here, too, coming in to head the DOJ. He is actually in favor of mandatory minimums, which does nothing but increase the population of these private prisons.
Got to go. We want to do this story a lot more.
There you go. So it just continues with the absolute corruption and the crony capitalism that continues to, the war on drugs, the war on terror, all this stuff is bullshit. America is a lie. America is one big fucking lie. And if you don't believe that, and you don't start to try to understand that, then you're part of the fucking problem. And people look at it as, you're going to, some people would say, well, I fund, I own stock in a private prison. They would consider that some kind of, prestigious thing. And it's not. It's totally not. But this is a great show. America's Lawyer. You can see all the episodes. They're commercial free. And they talk about some of the, they talk about glyphosate. They talk about Monsanto. And regardless, even if they can't do anything about it, ultimately, at least they're still talking about it. And, but, with people saying, Russia is garbage, Russia, is, assholes, or whatever people would think of Russia, at least they have programming on there that shows that America and the corporations within and are poisoning people. That they are poisoning people, profit over people, and there you have it. The holiday show here on UCY. Stay tuned for all the other incredible programming coming up on this last day of 2017. and try to do your best to make it make this upcoming year a good one. Take care of your health. Let people know that their health is being compromised by GMOs, things like that. They'll catch on sooner or later. But most people don't do anything until the doctor tells them that, one of their parts is failing. So stay tuned for Rocking the Boat with our guy, our Canadian brother. And we got the usual programming today. Stay tuned for Clint this afternoon, Red Pill Sunday School, Hal, and
there is only one holistic system of systems.
I will MK Ultra ya, put the MK scope on ya. If the MK hits you, it's guaranteed to open ya. The 57mm Mark 110, 220 rounds a minute, try to stop them. Don't put that on your wish list, that's retarded babble. Protesters make the hit list soon as they start to rabble. They are nothing but fishes in the barrel. It doesn't have to be Christmas for a carol. Some decorate with ornamental decorum. Some perform Shakana on Hanukkah and Purim. That's where my job come in. I am a blessing to the mercenary for the corporation selling weapons to them. Any potential competitor step into them. I'm authorized to knock them out and stick a GPS into them. They want to sell uranium to Iran that's enriched. That's a bitch. Now we gotta teach a lesson.